I'm going to talk about something you probably don't hear a lot about, which is sort of employee marketing and employee engagement. Now, this is about how work has changed. If you look at the picture on the left, it's a factory. Now, I can't imagine that that would be very fun work. A lot of the economies in the world are actually predicated on doing stuff like this, sort of rote, meaningless tasks. This is not an actual portrait of Strawberryfrog, but this is what our office looks like. It looks like it's here. It's fun, it's creative, it's engaging. It's the kind of place you would love to work. I mean, imagine being in an office all day where you get to play ping pong. That's much better than sort of putting whatever stuff into whatever box that they do in that factory over there. This is a big transition in our economy and how we think about work these days. We're fortunate in the United States, most of the work that we do is actually quite creative. And that can be creative in terms of engineering, it can be creative in terms of research, in terms of design, marketing, and sales. We're fortunate to work in this upper bubble here because that means those rote, boring, meaningless tasks are not a part of what we do. We're taking it up a level, keeping it much more interesting. Now, this is sort of the premise of what I'm thinking about. Happiness and creativity at work matters in industries in which we're paid for our intellectual capital. If you make stuff, you're a commodity. You're like the old spice trade. It's boring. But if you make ideas, something that's intellectual, you have to be creative and you have to be happy at your work. Happiness and creativity at work are largely derived from company culture. Now, if you look at just this space here, I just came in about 2 hours ago. This is a very creative space. It's got a very positive vibe to it. You can imagine lots of schools, probably like the high schools and middle schools you went to, that appear nothing like this, that actually look more like prison cells. Now, it's not surprising that those sort of schools don't produce creativity, and this one does. They're a byproduct of the culture that takes place there. And I think that company culture, the way sort of people think and act and behave at work, is the new frontier of marketing. It's a whole sort of untapped category that we could become a part of. Why do you have a sort of a good company culture? You have happier employees, more effective recruiting, people want to come work for you. You have better output, the actual ideas you create are better. And the future of marketing, I think, is in your employees' hands. Why does this matter? So just this morning, this was in, I think, the New York Times. So Red Lobster's new campaign is going to showcase their own workers. We're seeing sort of an undercurrent of a trend to lots of advertising agencies and marketers using real people, real employees, in their advertising because people want to feel that real sort of one-to-one connection of what's going on. So this is not just me up here sort of pontificating. This is actually a trend that's going on. This is a horribly convoluted, poorly designed chart. Apologies if you were the one that created it. But it basically shows sort of the evolution of different marketing channels. And you see a lot of different interesting things that take place in there. But what I think is going to really take place now is the focus on here, the employee. So people who actually work at a company, how can you enable and empower them to sort of participate in the brand marketing and the advertising that's going on out there? If you ever get a chance to go to visit Pixar, go. It's just the most phenomenal office I've ever been to. And you can then imagine that the reason their movies are so good is largely a byproduct of the culture that they have. So the very product that they make is a reflection of the company culture that they have, and the advertising that's done is sort of an extension of what takes place here. Why is this? Why does it matter? I think there are 5 key trends that are taking place. The rise of social media. We have purpose-driven organizations. We have WikiLeaks as a phenomenon. We have innovation and creativity as important drivers. And we have a revolving employee door. Each of these things sort of buttresses up to the argument that employees are the new face of brands and companies out there. So when you advertise, employees actually hold the most leverage for what the perception of that brand is in the marketplace. First of all, social media. Here's another great sort of infographic. Actually, I love this one. It's an infographic of how an idea spreads on Twitter. But what this was is the explosion in sort of the Twitter sphere when Osama bin Laden was assassinated. So basically, Keith Urban was a guy who was not related to the administration whatsoever, posted on Twitter, hey, I think this guy Osama was just, offed. Isn't that great? Brian Stelter, who's a reporter for the New York Times, picked it up, and then it sort of spreads from there. Now, what's important about this is somebody who is not involved in the administration, somebody who's not involved in politics or government, has a dramatic and immediate impact on how the government is perceived. Now, that's sort of the political analysis. Take it back to the brand and marketing analysis. The USA as a brand, the Obama administration as a brand, as an entity, was radically impacted by the information that was leaked, not by themselves, but by a complete and independent third party. It shows that the leverage that people have no longer resides in sort of the formal avenues of communication that you have. It's not about a press release. It's not necessarily about your advertising. It can be one person, a single tweet, dramatically impacting the brand and the perception of an entity that's out in the world. That's different from it used to be, and it's incredibly important, and the implications are pretty far-reaching. The next, purpose-driven organizations. Why does this matter? These are some catchphrases and sort of phrases you hear all the time. I want to work hard. I want to play hard. I want to do well by doing good. I want to believe in social entrepreneurship or build social capital. People of our generation want to work for organizations that they believe in, that they think is doing some sort of good in the world, has some sort of purpose behind it, whether that's making the best ads, the best soft drinks, the best microphones, or the best ad schools. Whatever it is, they want to have a purpose behind the work that they're doing. And I think the top talent in our industry, in any industry, will continue to sort of gravitate towards these types of organizations. This is a very similar point to the one about the Keith Urban, and it's the power of individuals to leak information and to control the image of a brand. I call it sort of the WikiLeaks age of marketing. So this guy, Julian Assange, has a greater impact on the brand of Bank of America than the advertising agency does. Why is that? He's claimed that he has, thousands of internal memos written by the CEO that's apparently pretty damning, and it's something that they wouldn't want released to the public. So what used to happen was that the advertising agency and the marketer would be able to control the brand and be able to say, okay, we're Bank of America, here's how you perceive us, this is what's actually happening. These days, an independent third party is forcing transparency upon these companies and these brands. So the internal politics, the way they treat their employees, the way they talk about their customers internally, matters more than any sort of external marketing or advertising that they do outside of there. Now, they have to obviously agree and they have to work in concert, but you can have somebody who's completely independent, really holds your brand hostage to what they want to do. Here's another case about sort of a disgruntled employee. This is the CEO of HP a couple months back, wrote an internal memo to his employees saying, basically, we're not doing so well in this economy. We need to watch every penny, minimize all hiring. The stock tanked immediately because one employee who wasn't happy about the way their life was going took that memo, which is supposed to be internal, and leaked it to the press. So a single disgruntled employee, again, can have a dramatic impact on the brand perception of a company that's out there, which directly impacts all of us and all of the work that any agency or client has to do. If somebody's unhappy, they can have a pretty damning effect.